If you're a sim junkie like I am, then you probably jump all the way in the deep end with the Velocity One Race KD3, the newest racer from Turtle Beach, kitted out with high-end force feedback, modular wheels, all that stuff. Look for that coverage here on this channel, shameless plug. But I'm not the only racer in my house. My wife much prefers pick up and play. She doesn't want to come up and fiddle with the PC software to get my Yaw 3 simulation rig running. She doesn't want to do all that. She wants to connect this device up to my Xbox Series X and within seconds be racing. And you know what? I can't blame her. I'm Ron Burke, editor-in-chief for Gamingtrend.com. Let's take a look at the alternative. Let's unbox the Racer wireless wheel from Turtle Beach. Now, I did specifically mention my Xbox Series X, but that's not the only option. This does also work with PC, so if you still intend to connect this to a PC, know that you can, or obviously it'll work for either one. You can switch back and forth. Nobody's stopping you. But I also did mention a specific word that you might not have caught because I went by it pretty quick. Wireless. This is a completely Bluetooth device that the box is fighting me. There we go. It is an entirely Bluetooth device. So you do not need to worry about how close you are sitting to your, well, I mean, I guess within reason, how close you're sitting to your TV and console, and you can simply connect this up, use Bluetooth, and be off to the races. It does mean you also lose some of the other stuff I mentioned, like force feedback. There isn't a wireless force feedback wheel that I'm aware of yet. But it also means you can plug this thing in, charge it up, pick it up, and be ready to play within seconds. And honestly, even hardcore sim junkies like me, sometimes I just want to pick up and play. So I'm actually kind of excited to get this wired up. Well, I guess not wired up, and give it a try. So let's finish unboxing it and see what there is to see. Now, if that seemed like the fastest unboxing ever, it probably was, but you may also feel like something is missing, and that might necessarily be true or maybe not. This doesn't come with a set of pedals, nor do you need them. Just like a controller, you will have triggers that you'll be able to use on the wheel to be able to brake and accelerate, so you don't actually have to have that to play. Also, the mounts are incredibly simple. This doesn't require a lot of mounting gear. It doesn't require a special plate. It doesn't require much of anything. In fact, we're going to see very quickly that all you need, well, A is love and B is right here. So we're going to get all the plastic off of this, and then we'll take a look at how this mounts up. I am happy to report that this is incredibly easy to mount. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. And there are no tools needed for this. These little things here pop up, unscrew them, that part pops down. In fact, let's see if I can, there we go, you can kind of see underneath it. We're going to mount it up right now. It simply slides onto like a table. Screw these back down like that. You're done. This is now fully locked in place and ready to go. And it's not your only option. If you were, say, going to put this on your couch, well, that's where these come in. These go underneath like so, and there's a little lip here for that to sit in, like a little track. So they're going to sit there, and then, whoops, I just did that backwards. Let's grab the correct one. We'll slide this in place like that, and then I'm going to tighten this down so the feet stay in place. You can slide this out for whatever feels best for you. Now we're going to put the other wing on here and tighten it down. And what have you got? You got something that'll now sit over the edge of a couch. Or I guess it could sit over your legs if your legs are tiny. But that little bit of extra flair at the edge there is going to give you something that you can put over something, and the grippiness underneath is going to hopefully keep it in place. I did just do something though that the instructions don't tell you explicitly, but I'm going to tell you explicitly. Before you do this, before you mount this, make sure that you think about how you're going to connect this. It does come with a cable, so you can connect this if you're inclined. And if you're planning on charging it or you're planning on playing it while you're charging it, you might want this. You'll also want this cable for updating it. Anytime you get any sort of device, hardware, you should definitely check the firmware. Make sure that you've got the latest and greatest update. That's going to give you the greatest compatibility for any games that you might be playing. And let me tell you, when it comes to race accessories, that is a must. There are usually updates for a bunch of games right as the device ships and then throughout that lifespan of that device. So you might check periodically and just make sure that you've got the latest and greatest. But hidden underneath here is what makes this wireless. This little wireless dongle can either go in your PC or in your Xbox Series X or S, and now you've got a wireless device. Just make sure you grab that because these mount options will obviously cover that, and well, you're going to feel kind of dumb pulling this back off if you have to do that, or you're going to wonder, where is that wireless dongle? Well, there it is. One of the things that I really appreciate about Turtle Beach is they work very hard about compatibility, and this device is no different. I've already gone ahead and connected it to my devices because everything you see on the internet is a lie. I've unboxed this and already played with it a little bit, but shh, we're going to pretend like this is the first time I've seen it. On the side here, you have connectivity options. I'm sorry, on the back here, you have the connectivity options. That's how you're going to connect it up. When you connect it to your PC, you can use the software for Turtle Beach, and that's going to immediately recognize it, and that's going to give you the option to update the firmware. Couldn't be simpler. It's about 3 clicks. Takes I don't know, a couple of minutes, and then it'll reboot. And you're on to racing. So make sure you do that first. I know there is a device update for this particular device as it came out of the box, so you might want to do that first. Once you get that done, connecting it is as simple as deciding what you're going to connect it to. So there are 3 toggles here, and for it to be connected to 2 different devices, why would you have 3 toggles? The 3 options are to connect it for Xbox and PC, and it's literally whatever you plug it into or whatever you sync it to with Bluetooth, it'll just pick it up. But there is a dedicated PC and a dedicated Xbox version of that button. Why would you need that? Well, turning it on Xbox or turning it on PC will kind of, I don't know, give you a more advanced series of features. So if you find that you want to have the best connectivity option, or you want to have the best series of features, you're going to want to use the appropriate toggle, either Xbox or PC. But if you run into an issue where you're playing a game and maybe it doesn't recognize the device, which I got to be honest, in my testing is actually pretty rare, but if it doesn't recognize it for what it is, which it should say Turtle Beach Race Wireless Wheel, if it doesn't detect it that way, turn it to that compatibility mode, which is Xbox or PC, and it should pick it right up. Honestly, this is a racing wheel. It's not a flight simulation rig. These aren't that complex. So mapping a couple of things on this is really not that hard. So even if you have to use compatibility mode, don't fret. It's a couple of button presses and you'll have everything on this device mapped and you'll be off to the races, literally. There was one feature I was happy to see, and it's also on the side here. That is a headphone jack. It is a dedicated headphone jack specifically so you can hear your racing sounds right through your headset, just as if you were to run it off of your controller. You can do that right from here, so you can run your headset and not disturb anybody if you happen to be playing at night. And also right here, you have dedicated audio controls, so you're not fumbling with having to grab a controller, adjust an option. It's right here on the steering wheel, so you can adjust that on the fly and never have to take your hands off the wheel. There's one feature that I was actually surprised to see on this wheel, and that is right here. There is a dedicated headphone jack, so you can plug in your 3.5 millimeter Turtle Beach headphones of choice, if you will, and you can use your audio right off the wheel, just as if you were plugging it into a controller. What surprised me, however, though, is you have integrated audio controls and chat mix. Chat mix is built directly into this, so if you're racing with friends, you can adjust all of that on the fly, and you can do it on the wheel without having to exit out into a bunch of menus and fumble with it, and then jump back into your game. You can do it right from here on the fly. Now, I did mention that you can use these without pedals, but obviously there are some trade-offs when you do that. When you do that, well, these are no longer shifters for shifting up and down for your gears. You have to trade that out for gas and brake. Now you can remap it. You have a number of buttons here, and you can obviously use that. You've got a multifunction button over here. You've got, a D-pad. You've got face buttons. None of those are going to be really great for gas and brake, but you could conceivably do that and then use these as paddle shifters. If you're going to go down that path, maybe just pick up a set of pedals. They're not that expensive, and at that point you're kind of converting to a wheel and pedal setup, and then you can use these as shifters. It's really up to you if you want to go down that path. You are adding a bit more cabling to your setup at that point, because now you got to run separate pedals, but it is an option. Just know that going into this, you're going to make some trade-offs by switching to something that doesn't have wheels, pedals that go with the wheel. So just know that going in. As I said, everything on the internet is fake, so now we're going to pretend like I haven't tested this already. Take this out and go test it already. Friction hold it, if you will. It works in a pinch, but so does a TV tray. Probably have one of those, so I would go with that method. This does work, maybe just not as well. All right, so I've not done anything other than connect this via wireless. There's a little dongle that goes underneath and stores inside the base of the wheel, and I've just got that plugged into a USB port on my PC, which is about 10 feet that way. So no wires, purely wireless. Let's go. So I'm gonna hit new game. This is Snow Runner. If you're unfamiliar with Snow Runner, it is a game about kind of driving through really complex and difficult terrain, snow being one of them. But it starts off with you in the mud. So over here we have the left bumper. I'm gonna go ahead and hit that, and then I'm gonna shift out of gear. So I'm gonna put it into low, and that's gonna let me move out. And I'm also gonna turn off the handbrake. So truck is now ready. I'm gonna start it up. I'm gonna use these paddles here in the back as my gas because I've got no pedals. So we're gonna start driving, and you'll see really quickly, this game's a whole lot of fun trying to get yourself out of the mud. You can see that the torque from my vehicle is trying to pull me all sorts of directions through the mud, but that's okay. Pretty quickly we'll be out of this initial mud situation here, and we'll be able to get out of low gear. But first, it's got to get worse before it gets better. We're going to put it in all-wheel drive first. You can see that that's allowed me to move through the muck a little faster. I'm going to shout out a different game while we're at it. You can see that the mud is really reactive, and that is something that there's another game, Toxic Commandos, or Toxic Commando, I think it's singular. Toxic Commando uses this same system. I think it's even the same engine. And by doing so, it means that your vehicles are prone to getting stuck in the mud, and you're going to have to kind of use this same system to get yourself unstuck. But, as opposed to just dealing with the terrain, you have to deal with angry zombies. All right, so we're out of the muck, and I should be able to pull myself out of all-wheel drive. In this particular game, you don't want to end up burning up your engine or your transmission, so you don't spend as much time in all-wheel drive as you might think. You certainly don't leave it on all the time. Because this doesn't have a shifter, I can't use that functionality here. Like if I had the shifter that goes with the other wheels that Turtle Beach sells, I'd be able to actually literally shift between those shifting positions. Here, I'm having to use kind of function keys to do that same thing. It's still fun, not quite as fun, but I mean, let's be honest, that wheel costs, or I should say that shifter costs almost as much as this wheel. So, there's kind of levels, folks. All right, so we are out onto the highway, and it wants us to go find the watchtower. But first, we're gonna go find gas and learn how that functionality works. You can see it does add quite a bit of immersion to just be able to literally steer and oversteer in my case, and get out there and get in the muck. There's a winch system in this game, which again has you kind of using the winch, your all-wheel drive, your four-wheel drive, and that winch, and maybe not tearing up my vehicle there. And so you saw I just shifted back into reverse. by using the other paddle. I've got it in automatic right now, but I could also have hit the left bumper and literally, you see it in the right corner, shifted into reverse and pulled myself out. So it just depends on kind of what level of immersion you'd like to have. So we're going to drive right through these. It wants me to go through the water, so I'm going to go ahead and switch on that all-wheel drive again. We're just going to go right through this water. Nope, it does not like that. I think I might have hit a rock. But either way, that's fine. Go ahead and shift once again. I'm going to put it in low. Oh, there was a tree there. It happens. Dangerous water level, we'll be all right. This might have been a situation where I could hook a winch to a tree to accomplish the same task. Now that we're out, left bumper again. Shift back into automatic. I'm going to take myself out of all-wheel drive again. And we're going to take ourselves over to this gas station where I'm going to stop. So I'm obviously not trying to review SnowRunner. That's a whole different thing. It is a lot of fun, by the way. But, all right, we're going to get away from the music so I can talk. But you can see the games like SnowRunner that are a little more relaxed. You know, obviously a race wheel is going to be all over the place. This is how you can play a game that is maybe not quite as intense, but still get a layer of intensity that you're not going to get out of a controller. And I just wanted to highlight that. You're going to see a million reviews for this wheel that are just focused on games like Assetto Corsa, which I'm going to fire up here in a second. And you know, that's obviously going to be a lot more kinetic than this game is, but there's still a lot of fun to be had in games like SnowRunner or Roadcraft, where you can, a Roadcrafter, where you can jump into a car, even in first-person perspective, and just have a lot of fun whipping the wheel around and driving. Even though you don't have the shifter, even without the wheel having pedals, you can still have a whole lot of fun. So let's switch over to a more high-intensity racing game, and we'll be right back. We've shifted over, enjoy that pun, to a racer. That is the previously mentioned Assetto Corsa. This is a much more intense racing game, and it's going to reveal really the only real downside to this wheel. I don't want to belabor it too much. Let's see if you spot it. So I went ahead and set it up the same exact way as I had for previous racing games, whereas literally the right paddle is gas, the left paddle is brake. Everything else, you can really map it or not. It's kind of more arcade, this particular game, so you can go as complex as you'd like, where you're adjusting ABS and toe in, toe out, you know, how much realism you want. And you can map those things to the buttons here, but also realize that you're dealing with a much smaller platform, so you only have a limited number of buttons to map. So it's really a matter of how much do you want to dig into this and what things are important to you and which things maybe aren't. So without further ado, let's just jump into racing and you'll see how this goes. So on the track immediately. Again, I don't have wheels, so I'm going to be using the other axis, which is this back here. Right there is where you see the first real limitation. I don't have as much rotation as I would for more, yeah, see, that's it, a more high-end race wheel like the KD3, which is another race wheel from Turtle Beach. So depending on what level of realism you're looking for, is going to have an impact on how much turn radius you have. I want to say that one has over 2,000 degrees of turn radius, whereas this is very much limited by right around, looks like a right around kind of 75 degrees-ish, where you kind of hit that stop before you get all the way, well no, I guess it's more than that. Probably 175 degrees. You're not quite getting all the way over, but you're not going to be whipping this wheel around like you can with that other race wheel. So you can still do pretty well, but you can see right there I wasn't able to crank the wheel as much as I might want to maybe drift the car. Depending on the game, you're going to want to do that, but you might be somewhat limited. But alright, I'm going to pay attention to the car and see if I can maybe kind of simulate what it's like if I take it seriously. I'm going to try and stay on the line, really pay attention to the guidance that the game's giving me. Because this is wireless, and there are some battery limitations to be mindful of, there's no force feedback. So that is always going to be a limitation when you have a wireless wheel. It's just something to know going in. So you're not getting the... Say I'm going to take it seriously, and then I put the car off the road. Alright. Pay attention. Alright, you're not going to have force feedback. It's just one of those things that it's never going to be a thing on a racing wheel that is wireless. But it also means I don't have to deal with wires. I'm so far away from my PC that it would be kind of a pain. Man, it's one corner, it's really hard. The Nürburgring is already a difficult race. In that one lap, if I don't slow down that one part of the lap, I just can't make that corner. Anyway, the point I was making was the force feedback. It is difficult on a racing wheel that is wireless. One, there's the battery consideration. Two, carrying telemetry data is already difficult enough when you're trying to do real-time racing where split seconds matter. Now you're introducing something else on top of it, force feedback. That's an additional bit of telemetry to carry back and forth. I don't know what kind of latency that might introduce without wires, but it seems like that might actually be a factor. I might be wrong, but alright, it certainly did better that time around on that particular lap. I am by no means a pro at this, so your favorite racer out there will probably do a better job than I, but I'm going to do my best, and that's all I can. That is another thing that you have to get used to because you are driving essentially with your fingertips on the back of the paddles. When you do steer a really hard corner like that, you're kind of reaching underneath with your fingertips to be able to access the gas pedal, so to speak. So just a little bit of practice. It's not a deal breaker by any stretch. But like just now, I had to reach all the way up underneath to make that same corner. Now there might not be as much whipping the wheel around as you do in roadcraft, but it's a different kind of driving with the wheel. All right, there we go. That was a clean corner. Just a matter of practice. Not my best work, but not good shot. Now in my written review, which you can find at Gamingtrend.com, I'm going to link to a full list of all of the, I hesitate to say compatible, because that's not accurate. All of the games that are supported right out of the gate with a profile that's preloaded. Let's say that, which is more than a mouthful, more than compatible. But there are plenty of games that are supported right out of the box where all of the controls are mapped for you. That said, there's nothing preventing you from mapping all of the buttons on this controller and all of the axes to any game out there. So even if the game is not on the supported list, you can spend a few minutes and map it up. So I don't know if, for example, American Trucking, the trucking simulator that's so popular, is on the compatible list. But even if it's not, you can go in and simply map the controls if you want to the buttons snack seats that are available, and you're off to the races, so to speak, with that one as well. So there's nothing preventing you from beating this on a game. I mean, hell, I've even seen people beating Dark Souls with a steering wheel. So you do you. And that one corner just vexes me. That's a tough corner. Race fans, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Nürburgring is the only racetrack that's large enough where the weather on one side of the track may actually be different than the weather on the opposite side of the racetrack. So you may have set out with a set of tires specifically to deal with rain on one side, and all of a sudden find yourself on dry pavement on the other, which of course would be a problem. It does require a high degree of skill to suddenly drive on dry pavement with wheels that are meant for rain. I'm up on the other side, but I don't know if that's better or worse. The game seems to think I'm doing a terrible job at it. I have track medal 0-3 up there in the upper right corner. What do you say? Stay in control of your car. Hey, that's green. I'll take that. I have yet to drive a clean lap, though. I imagine clean means not moving up on the rim and not putting your tires in the grass. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm trying. So, who is this wheel for? That's always the question, right? This is fantastic for somebody like my wife. She doesn't want to fight with my motion simulator. She doesn't want to have to deal with the complexities of firing up multiple programs to get all of the motion simulation systems fired up. She certainly doesn't want to deal with, what happens if something doesn't go right. This is literally, you turn it on by holding in the Xbox button as if it was a controller, and that's it. There's no more instructions. You sit down and you race. If you have to map controls, I mean, that's about as simple as it gets too. It's, press the button you want to map and then press the thing you'd like it to do. Anybody can figure that out, even if you're not the most savvy with that sort of thing. And so this sort of wheel reduces the complexity of simulation, being able to add another layer of simulation beyond what you would get out of a simple controller. Obviously, there are some limitations, but you can see already that I've overcome those. With just a tiny bit of practice, I'm already able to take a corner, like I did just now, that had been problematic in the very beginning, and what have I spent? 10 minutes racing or less, and I'm able to take this Lamborghini around this track, and I just navigated the corner, then it spun me out, and I stayed on the race line the whole time. So, yeah, there are limitations. They're not ones that are deal breakers. So, who is this for? Somebody who wants to be able to pick up and play without having to deal with a bunch of wires, multiple things that you need to mount or in some way to secure to an object like a race chair. I can simply pick this up and turn it on and fire up the game, and I'm ready to go. Same thing with firing it up on the Xbox. It's even simpler there. On the PC, I gotta plug in a dongle. Who cares? On the Xbox, it can do the same thing. Who cares? Piece of cake. There's a button on the side that tells it whether or not it's in that pre-configured mode or if you're going to be mapping stuff by hand. And if you find yourself not able to get a game to start, that's when you've messed up. You hit that button and not had it in the right position. So, my fastest time so far. I don't want to screw it up any more than that, so I'm going to kind of end it there. Head over to gamingtrend.com for a closer look at this wheel. We'll talk about warranty, we'll talk about price, and I'll get some exact numbers around things like the rotation and other such kind of under the hood things that you might be interested in. So we're going to call it quits there. I'm Ron Burke, editor-in-chief for Gamingtrend.com. Thanks for joining me, taking a look at this wheel. Stay safe out there. We'll see you again real soon.